3 very simple steps which will teach anyone who adopts them some very valuable lessons in the world of finance. Give some, save some, spend some. Let's break it down. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Reese, and in today's video, I'm going to be talking about a very popular method that is used to handle money, especially for younger people who are learning about finance. This is a very baby step approach to Finance 101, but I think for people who need a little bit of structure, or for someone who might be teaching a child about the topic, it can make the overall topic of finance a little less overwhelming. In simple terms, it's the introduction to budgeting, and it will teach some valuable skills such as discipline, compassion, and delayed gratification. Before I go into detail of the method, I just wanted to touch on when the wrong time to use this method is. It's pretty much only when you have debt, whether you have a car loan, a personal loan, maybe even a large mortgage. Realistically, if you are in debt, there should be a greater focus on paying those loans down before adopting a method like this where you're splitting up money for other purposes. When you have debt, you purpose your money to pay down that debt. Just keep that in mind. That is when you do not want to use this method. Okay, so being generous has plenty of benefits. First up is to give some, and this does not need to be a large sum of money. I would say somewhere between 1 and 5% of your take-home pay, depending on what your income is and how generous you're feeling any given year. This is something that will pay off in many different ways, as giving back generally makes people happier and evokes gratitude. Donating and giving money away is something that I try to do every single year to causes that I personally believe in and have vested interests in. I have felt the positive effects from giving, and I think more people should adopt this mindset if they have capacity to do so. One of my favorite memories from giving was from a very long time ago. I was in a grocery store in line at the checkout, and there was a man in front of me who was having his groceries put through the cashier, and I was eavesdropping on his conversation. Whoops. Anyway, I overheard him talking to the cashier about that night he was planning to make pasta for his date, and that it had been a while since he'd been on a date. The cashier told him the total, the man swiped his card and it declined, and in that very moment, the number of expressions on that man's face was amazing. He experienced disappointment, stress, fear, and embarrassment, which are all kind of things that I would expect to see if you're in that circumstance. In that moment, I walked right up to the cashier and said, without even thinking, "I've got it." And I tapped my card ready to go, and I paid for his groceries. The man was stunned. So was the cashier. He looked me dead in the eyes and said to me, "If I ever see you again, I will 100% pay you back. Thank you." I haven't seen him since, and that was nearly 12 years ago. Some 15-year-old kid made that man's afternoon a little bit easier, and I have to tell you that to this day, I still feel like I was the one who was rewarded. To this day, I still feel good thinking about that little deed that I did. It was inexpensive at the time. I wasn't flowing and gushing with cash, but I saw an opportunity and I took it to do something that I knew would benefit someone who needed it in that moment. And like I said, today, I still reap the rewards of being able to play back that scenario in my head and remember just how grateful that man was. It's the little things that can really boost your happiness, and giving is one of the easiest ways to get that feeling. And something just to quickly note as well is that any donations you make may be tax deductible. So definitely check and make sure that you are claiming a tax deduction on anything that is eligible, because why wouldn't you? I see it as an ultimate win. You get to do something good, and you also kind of get rewarded in a small way by being able to claim a deduction against it. Now, not everything is going to be able to be claimed. I definitely couldn't claim that man's groceries, but if you donate to an organization or a non-for-profit cause, generally, especially in Australia, you're going to be able to claim some type of deduction. I've actually made a video talking about donations, so if you were interested in learning more about what you can and can't claim in Australia in particular, feel free to check that out. I have linked it down in the description below. And if you could do me a massive favor at this point throughout the video, if you've made it this far, please hit that like and subscribe button. I really do appreciate the support, and it really does help the channel grow. Okay, moving on to number 2, save some. Now, this should probably be reworded to save lots, because the 3 steps that I'm talking about today are all different in nature, which means they are going to be weighted differently in how much money is allocated to each of them. Saving is something that absolutely reduces stress in people's lives, because it gives you options in the event where things turn for the worst. A good example of this is when you build an emergency fund, and why having an emergency fund is beneficial, which I've also made a video about and linked it down below. Depending on your fixed expenses and your situation, I will always say this: aim to save 50% of your income. I know that is not a realistic figure for most people, but that is what you should be aiming for no matter what. For those living at home with their parents without a mortgage, this should be pretty achievable. And if it's too easy, I would suggest bumping that 50% figure up. You won't regret it in the future, not only because you'll have a pool of cash to do what you want to do with it. The main point of saving, and this is something I preach a lot on this channel, is to learn to build the habit to save just because. Because you build a habit that when your income and salary increases, nothing changes. You can continue down that path, but you have a little bit of extra spending money. You might put a little bit of extra money into investments and things like that, but your ability to save doesn't change. If anything, it improves. And for those who have moved out and are paying a mortgage or maybe renting and have lots of fixed expenses, this is going to be a little bit tougher. So I would aim for the 20% mark, just aim for it, and continually increase that all the way up to 50% if possible. For some people, this will be possible. For some people, it won't be. The point is, have that mindset and try your best to achieve those goals. This step is all about discipline, and the payoff will not only be peace of mind by having a safety net, such as an emergency fund, but it will also allow you to make strategic purchases and investments as you build savings. And last on the list is to spend some. Enjoying your money is something that you must do throughout your life, otherwise earning it will be bleak and at times depressing. This is also the reward for the hard work that has gone into saving and being disciplined with this newly adopted routine. I personally allocate somewhere between 10 and 15% of my take-home pay towards leisure spending, and I think this is an appropriate number, especially for most people in my situation. I think just in general, if you can limit yourself to around about that number, you're going to be able to allocate the rest of your money towards the things that are more important, such as your fixed expenses, potentially saving, and also giving if it's something that you have capacity to do. When I started working my first casual job at the local supermarket and was still living with my parents, this was leaving me with roughly $75 for leisure spending or just spending money in general per pay. Now that I'm working full time, that amount of spending money has increased significantly, which has in turn allowed me to reduce that 15% is where I started down to about the 10% mark of my take home pay. It varies, but I allow myself within that range, but I haven't needed to take that 15% anywhere near as much as I used to. And this will be pretty consistent for most people who start a casual job and move into jobs where they're more career path driven. It might be an apprenticeship, you might go do tertiary education. The point is as your income increases, that percentage will be able to decrease, but you technically have more spending money in your pocket. Using a percentage system to break up my take-home pay has worked really well. I've been doing it for over 5 to 10 years now, somewhere in that realm. Couldn't give you an exact quote, but it's been refined all the way to the point now where I'm able to invest, I'm able to save, I'm able to give money, and I'm happy with the amount of money I use for leisure spending, which allows me to avoid lifestyle creep. And at the end of the day, I'm still able to enjoy my day-to-day life as if nothing had changed. I'm not missing out on anything. I am enjoying my life as it is. Every day is a good day, and I'm still able to do the things I want to do when I want to do them, for the most part, within reason. I can't own a Lamborghini yet, something that, you gotta aim high, but it's not something that I'm actively working towards. Everything I'm actively working towards, I have the ability to achieve. And it's purely based off of the discipline of using a system like the percentage system. I've talked about it in lots of my other videos. Feel free to check them out if you're interested. I really wanted to just put that out there, that it is a system that has worked consistently for a very long period of time, and I expect it to continue working for me into the future. And just to touch base on it, the spend component of this routine will absolutely help you regulate your spending habits. It builds a good habit because, like I said, it regulates how much you're going to allocate towards being able to make purchases. Some purchases every now and then need a bit of justification to purchase them. If you only have X amount of money in your account at the time, it means that you can't purchase it. If you have the discipline to hold off until you've saved for that purchase potentially, then you're going to benefit in the long run. It's going to help you build really healthy habits. Really wanted to put that in there as well. One very important thing to note is to be realistic about the amounts, the ratios, or the guidelines of how much money you're allocating to each of these 3 steps. If you can't afford to give much because times are tough, make that amount smaller for the time being and adjust it when the time is right. One other very important thing to note is that if you're a parent and wanting to teach a child about the value of money, this is the simplest system. This is probably the best type of person to adopt this method because it will teach these skills to a young person. It's a pretty easy thing to set up, and the kid that learns these skills from a young age is going to benefit from them greatly, in my personal opinion. It's something I learned to do. A few of my friends who have adopted this over the years they have traits and qualities about them that I really like, and I think that this played a part in that development. And I've left links in the description down below to relevant topics that I've kind of plucked from today's video, such as the emergency fund, how to teach your kids about finance, things like that. Feel free to check those videos out if you're interested. Links are down in the description below. And that's pretty much it for this video. Like I said, this method is an easy introduction into the world of finance, especially for people who need a bit of structure. And like I said, for young people, it is something that I absolutely encourage you to give a go if it's something that would apply to your situation, something that you could see working in your own situation. And if you have any questions, please do ask them down in the comments below. I will be more than happy to try and answer as many of them as I can. So feel free to leave me a comment. I try to reply to as many as I can. With that being said, I hope you enjoyed today's video. I hope it was insightful, and I hope you learned something. If you did, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. And as always, I will see you in the next one. Bye for now.